Right now, many people are experiencing homelessness in our community, and they've been feeling the squeeze for far too long. Concern is growing. They could get squeezed out altogether.
Every night in Florida, thousands sleep in vehicles they can't afford to lose. By morning, some are gone, towed, ticketed, or forced to move. To most people, it looks like a cleanup. But if you watch closely, it's something darker, a slow erasure of the people no one wants to see. Now, in 2025, a new set of laws threatens to finish the job. This isn't a story about travel or choice. It's about survival and how far one state will go to hide a crisis growing in plain sight. What's happening here will not stay here. What you're not seeing. Let's start with what most people miss. When you drive through Clearwater or Orlando or any mid-sized Florida city after dark, you might see an RV parked on a side street, maybe a conversion van tucked behind a Walmart. You probably assume it's someone passing through, a retiree, a road tripper. But look closer. There's no campground sticker. The registration is local. The windows are covered with reflective sunshades, even though it's 9 at night. There's a bucket outside, a propane tank zip-tied to the bumper. This isn't van life, this is vehicular homelessness. And the difference matters. Van life is a choice. It's solar panels and Instagram posts and remote work from national parks. Vehicular homelessness is what happens when rent hits $2,000 a month and your paycheck stops at $2,800. It's the space between eviction and the street. It's the last address you have before you have no address at all. In Florida right now, this population is invisible by design. They're not counted in most homeless surveys because they don't use shelters. They're not sleeping on sidewalks, so they don't show up in point-in-time counts. They work. They shower at truck stops. Their kids go to school. And the state has no idea how many of them there are because no one is looking. If your vehicle is older than 10 years, you're not allowed in. And that's the silent killer, because the average person living in an RV in Florida is driving something from 2008. They can't afford new, they can't get into parks, and they can't stay on the street. So where do they go? Nowhere legal. That's the setup. Now, let's talk about what happens next. The first crack, when rent becomes impossible. Here's how it starts. You're working full-time. Maybe you're a line cook in Fort Myers or a housekeeper in Miami Beach. You've been renting the same one-bedroom apartment for 3 years. $850 a month. Not cheap, but manageable. Then your lease ends. The landlord says the new rent is $1,400. You ask why. They say market rate. You look around. Every apartment within 10 miles is the same or higher. You do the math. 1,400 times 12 is $16,800 a year. You make $32,000. After taxes, that's about $24,000. Rent is now 70% of your income. You can't do it. So you move in with a friend. That lasts 2 months. Then you move to a weekly motel. $60 a night, $420 a week, $1,800 a month. You're paying more than the apartment cost, and you have no lease, no kitchen, no stability. You're burning through savings that don't exist. Then someone offers you an old RV for $3,000. It's a 1998 model. The roof leaks, the fridge doesn't work, but it's yours. You buy it. You park it behind a grocery store. You think it's temporary? It's not. These stories vanish fast. Tap like, subscribe, and share so more people see what's really happening. Back to the story. The second crack, where parks close their doors. So you've got the RV. Now you need a place to park it. Your first thought is an RV park. There are hundreds across Florida. Snowbird havens, long-term communities, budget spots near highways. You call. You explain your situation, and that's when you hear it. Sorry, we have a 10-year rule. Your vehicle is too old. You ask why. They say insurance, liability, appearance. What they mean is, we don't want you here. The 10-year rule isn't law, it's policy, but it's everywhere, and it creates a trap. The people who most need affordable parking are the ones driving older vehicles, and those are exactly the vehicles that parks refuse. So you try public land, national forests, Bureau of Land Management sites, but Florida has almost none. It's mostly private, and the free spots that do exist have a 14-day limit. After that, you have to move. So you go to Walmart, Cracker Barrel, rest stops, and you find out that most of those are banned too. County by county, city by city, Florida has been passing ordinances that make it illegal to sleep in your vehicle on public or private property without permission. The term is no overnight parking, and it doesn't just mean you can't camp. It means you can't stop. Here's what that looks like on the ground. You park behind a shopping center at midnight. You wake up at 6. You leave. No mess, no noise, no problem. Except someone called the cops. And now there's a citation on your windshield, $50. You can't pay it. It goes to collections. It becomes a warrant. Now you can't apply for jobs because a background check shows an active warrant. You can't register your vehicle because you owe fines. And you can't park anywhere because every spot is a risk. This is the second crack, and it doesn't just displace people, it criminalizes them for sleeping. But let's say you find a spot, a quiet street, an industrial area, somewhere the cops don't patrol. You stay there for a week, then you see the notice, 72-hour parking limit. If your vehicle doesn't move within 3 days, it gets towed. And here's the thing about tows in Florida. They're not gentle. The fee is $250 for the tow, $60 a day for storage, and you have to pay within 10 days or the vehicle gets auctioned. If you're living in that RV, that means you have 10 days to come up with $700 or lose your home. Most people don't make it. The RV gets sold. Everything inside, gone. Birth certificates, IDs, medications, photos, tools, work uniforms, everything. And now you're on the street, not because you broke a law, because you couldn't move fast enough. The third crack, when basic needs become impossible. Let's talk about what it's actually like to live in an RV with no hookups. No water, no sewage, no electricity. You wake up in Florida in July, it's already 85 degrees inside by 7 in the morning. You have no air conditioning, you have no refrigerator, you have a 5-gallon jug of water that you refilled yesterday at a gas station. You use it to brush your teeth, to wash your face, to make instant coffee. By noon, it's empty. You need to find another place to fill it. You also need to use the bathroom. You have a bucket with a trash bag. You've been using it for 3 days. It smells. You need to dump it. But where? Public restrooms don't allow it. Dumpsters are technically illegal. So you drive to a park, wait until no one's looking, and dump it in a trash can. You feel like a criminal. You're not. You're just trying to stay human. Now let's talk about power. You have a phone. It's your only connection to work, to family, to services. It needs to charge, but your RV has no electrical hookup. You could run the engine and charge it through the cigarette lighter, but gas is $4 a gallon and you're rationing. So you go to a library, a McDonald's, anywhere with an outlet. You sit there for 2 hours. People stare. Security asks if you're a customer. You buy a coffee you can't afford just to stay. This is daily life. And it's exhausting. Not because you're lazy, because the infrastructure doesn't exist. Here's the impact. If you can't shower, you can't work in customer-facing jobs. If you can't keep your phone charged, you miss calls from employers. If you can't receive mail, you can't get an ID. And if you can't get an ID, you can't get housing. You're stuck in a loop. And every day, you're burning energy just to survive. That energy could go toward job searching, saving, healing. Instead, it goes toward finding water. That's the third crack, and it's not an accident. It's a design flaw that punishes people for being poor. 3 new rules that change everything. Now here's where it gets worse. In the last 8 months, Florida has passed or proposed 3 major policies that directly target vehicle dwellers. And if you're already living in an RV, these are about to make your life unlivable. Let's go through them one at a time. Rule 1. No habitation vehicle ordinances. Starting this year, counties across Florida are adopting model language that makes it illegal to use any vehicle as a dwelling on public property. That includes sleeping, cooking, storing belongings. The penalty is a misdemeanor, up to 60 days in jail. And the kicker is this: the law defines habitation so broadly that even sitting in your vehicle with the engine off for too long could qualify. This isn't targeted at RVs, it's targeted at existence. And it's spreading. Miami-Dade passed it. Broward is next. By summer, more than 30 counties will have some version of this on the books. What does that mean for someone living in a van? It means every night is a gamble. It means you have to keep moving, keep hiding, keep pretending you don't live where you live. And if you get caught 3 times, that's 3 misdemeanors. That's a record. That's a barrier to housing, to employment, to everything. Rule 2. Mandatory vehicle inspections for long-term parking. Several Florida cities are now requiring that any RV parked in a residential area for more than 72 hours pass a city inspection. The inspection checks for working plumbing, electrical safety, sewage containment, and fire code compliance. If your RV doesn't pass, you get a notice to move within 24 hours. And here's the problem. Most older RVs don't pass because they were never designed for full-time living without hookups. The inspection isn't about safety. It's about exclusion. It's a way to force out the vehicles that look poor. And it works. Because if you can't pass the inspection, you can't stay. And if you can't stay, you move to the next city until that city passes the same rule. And then you're out of cities. Rule 3. The closure of informal safe zones. For years, certain areas in Florida, usually near industrial zones or empty lots, operated as informal safe parking. Police didn't enforce. Neighbors didn't complain. People parked there for months, even years. It wasn't legal, but it was tolerated. That tolerance is ending. County officials are now clearing these areas using blight and public health justifications. They're putting up gates, posting no trespassing signs, and forcing everyone out with no alternative, no shelter beds, no referrals, just you have to leave. And when people ask where they're supposed to go, the answer is silence. This is the third rule, and it's the cruelest because it takes away the last gray area, the last place where people could just exist without being punished for it. Put these three rules together, and what do you get? A state that has decided vehicular homelessness is a crime, not a crisis. A state that would rather arrest people than house them, and a state that is about to push thousands of families, seniors, and workers into the streets, not because there's no solution, but because no one wants to pay for it. The human cost. 3 people you need to meet. Let me introduce you to 3 people. You won't see their faces, you won't hear their real names, but their stories are verified, and they represent thousands. Meet Rita. She's 62. She worked as a home health aide in Tampa for 18 years. She made $16 an hour. When her landlord sold the building, she had 30 days to find a new place. She applied to 12 apartments. All of them required income 3 times the rent. She made $2,080 a month. The cheapest apartment was $1,100. She didn't qualify. A friend let her park an old camper in their driveway. She lived there for 9 months. Then the city sent a code violation notice. The camper had to go. She bought a 2006 RV for $2,000. It broke down a week later. She couldn't afford the repair. Now she sleeps in the front seat. She still works. She still shows up, but she has no address, no shower. And under the new habitation law, sleeping in that front seat is a crime. These aren't edge cases. They're not addicts. They're not criminals. They're working people who got pushed out by rent they couldn't control, policies they didn't vote for, and a system that treats housing as a commodity, not a right. And the 3 new rules Florida just passed, they make Rita's situation illegal. They make Carlos's survival a crime. And they eliminate the program that saved Jennifer. That's the human cost. What actually works? The models. Florida won't fund. Here's the thing. We know how to solve this. The solutions exist. They've been tested. They work. And Florida is choosing not to use them. Let's talk about what actually works. Safe parking programs. These are city or nonprofit-run lots where people can legally park overnight without fear of citation, tow, or arrest. The best programs provide more than just a spot. They provide bathrooms, showers, dumpsters, security, and most importantly, case management. A caseworker meets with each person within 72 hours. They help with ID replacement, which usually takes less than 7 days for 90% of participants. They connect people to income support, medical care, and housing applications, and they track progress. The goal isn't to keep people in vehicles, it's to move them into housing, and it works. Programs in San Diego, Seattle, and Denver report housing placement rates between 60 and 75% within 6 months. In Florida, there are exactly 6 programs total, serving maybe 300 people. That's 0.6% of the vehicular homeless population. The need is there. The model is proven. The funding isn't. Vehicle triage centers. Think of these as emergency rooms for people and vehicles. You pull in, you get assessed. You get immediate access to food, hygiene, phone charging, mail service. You meet with a navigator who helps you create a 30-day plan. ID replacement happens on site. Benefits enrollment happens on site. You're not just parked, you're being stabilized. And stabilization is the key, because most people living in vehicles aren't chronically homeless. They're recently displaced. They still have work history. They still have skills. They just need a runway. Vehicle triage centers provide that. And the data shows that people who go through triage programs lease up faster, stay housed longer, and cost the system less than people who cycle through shelters or jails. While Florida has 0 vehicle triage centers, not one. Master lease lot programs. This is where a nonprofit or housing authority leases a large private lot and converts it into a managed RV community. Residents pay low or no rent. They get access to water, power, sewage, and trash. They get case management, and they get time. Not 14 days, not 72 hours. Time to save, time to heal, time to plan. These programs work because they remove the chaos. When you're not worried about being towed, you can focus on moving forward, and the outcomes reflect that. Programs in Los Angeles and Austin report housing exits above 85% within 24 months. The cost per person is about $12,000 a year. Compare that to jail, which costs $25,000, or emergency rooms, which people without housing use at 3 times the rate of housed individuals. Master lease lots save money, and they save lives. Florida has 2. Both are pilot programs. Both are underfunded. Housing First with Vehicle Bridge. This is the model that works best. It says, give people housing first. Don't make them earn it. Don't make them sober up first. Don't make them prove they deserve it. House them, then provide support. And for people and vehicles, the bridge is key. You can't move someone from an RV into an apartment in one day. There's paperwork, there's waiting lists, there's move-in costs. So you provide a bridge, a safe parking spot with services while they're waiting. And you fast-track the process. Intake within 72 hours. ID within 30 days, lease up within 30 days of approval, and you keep caseload small, no more than 25 people per caseworker. When you do that, retention rates stay above 85% at 24 months. People stay housed because you didn't just give them an apartment, you gave them stability. Florida funds almost none of this. The state's Housing First budget is a fraction of what's needed, and vehicular homelessness isn't even included in most funding formulas. Here's what needs to change. Scrap the 10-year rule. Replace it with safety inspections, not age limits. Allow cities to create long-stay zoning for RV communities in industrial or commercial areas where there's no neighborhood opposition. Upgrade infrastructure in those zones: water, sewage, power, trash. Fund vehicle triage centers in every county with more than 500 unsheltered people. Create a statewide safe parking network with case management built in, and change the federal definition of homelessness to include people living in vehicles so they can access the same funding as shelter-based programs. All of this is doable. None of it is happening. If this opened your eyes, subscribe and leave a comment about what's happening where you live. Because next, we head to California, where the line between housing and survival has all but disappeared.